Welcome back to Hardware Unboxed. Today we are talking about Nvidia's announcement of their upcoming GeForce 20 series. At 2 AM in the morning, and that's 2 AM my time, Nvidia held their Gamescom 2018 keynote and as expected announced their next generation GeForce hardware and began taking pre-orders. As always, we don't recommend you get involved in the pre-ordering process, and we highly recommend that you just wait and check out the day one reviews. So in case you missed it, Nvidia will be releasing the RTX 2080 and RTX 2080 Ti rather than the usual base model 80 and 70 cards at launch. I think I know why we are seeing the 2080 Ti at the initial launch, which is something we don't normally see, but I will talk about that towards the end of the video and give a few of my own personal opinions there. For now though, let's go over the official information that Nvidia has given us. For now, we have details regarding the RTX 2080 Ti, RTX 2080, and RTX 2070. The 2080 models will be hitting the streets on the 20th of September next month, while the 2070 will be coming the following month in October. As you might have guessed, the 2080 Ti is indeed the flagship part, while the 2080 is the high-end model, with the 2070 being a slightly cheaper high-end model designed for enthusiasts who don't want to break the bank. Though, given the MSRPs, that one's a bit laughable at this point. So as I said, Nvidia are releasing the 2080 models first this time, and they will be available in a month's time. But as of today, they're taking pre-orders. Pre-orders a whole month in advance. And you might think, well, okay, maybe the pricing's reasonable. Maybe not. The 2080 Ti starts at an MSRP of $1,000 US, and that is for the partner cards. And then $1,200 US for the Founders Edition version, so we're talking Titan XP money. Meanwhile, the vanilla 2080, that one is starting at $700 US for the partner models and then $800 US for the Founders Edition. And then capping off the high end, we have the 2070, which will be coming in at $500 US or $600 US for the FE card. So this means gamers are looking at having to spend between $100 and $300 US more for an equivalent model from the past generation. Then on top of that, the FE models carry a further $100 to $200 US price premium, and you just know that these are going to be the only models available from time to time. Again, I'll discuss more of my thoughts on pricing and availability towards the end of the video. Let's just get all the specs out of the way first, all the official information that Nvidia has given us. The new 20 series is based upon Nvidia's Turing architecture, and as the RTX in the name suggests, ray tracing is all the rage now. Basically what we have here is a type of hybrid rendering that combines ray tracing with traditional rasterization. So along with the new Tensor cores, we're also getting RT cores. Nvidia states the fastest GeForce RTX model can cast 10 billion rays per second, which compared to the unaccelerated Pascal is a 25 times improvement in ray tracing performance. However, today's games don't use ray tracing as it's extremely slow on current hardware, so it's hard to say exactly what the benefits of hybrid rendering will be for gamers. It really depends on how heavily future games implement the technology, so there really isn't much to comment on right now. What will tell us a great deal about how these new Turing GPUs are going to perform are the core and clock specifications, along with a few other tidbits. The RTX 2080 Ti packs 4,352 CUDA cores. That's a 21% increase over the GTX 1080 Ti, and this along with the Tensor and RT cores has seen the GPU die size increase by a massive 60%. This in itself helps explain why this part is so damn expensive. That and of course the complete lack of competition, but we'll touch on that later in the video. Although these new GPUs are manufactured using TSMC's 12nm FinFET NVIDIA process, it's basically just 16 nanometers with a larger reticle limit. Performance-wise, they are identical according to TSMC, which explains the clock speeds. Speaking of which, the 4,352 cores are clocked at a base frequency of 1,350 MHz with a boost clock of 1,545 MHz, which is comparable to the 1080 Ti. I should note that the FE models do come overclocked with a boost of 1,635 MHz. But of course, that's pretty much going to be the same on all the partner cards as well anyway, so somewhat of a moot point. Then we have an 11GB frame buffer using 14 gigabits per second GDDR6 memory on a 352-bit wide memory bus, and that affords the card a memory bandwidth of 616 gigabytes per second. The plain old RTX 2080 comes with 2,944 CUDA cores, a base clock speed of 1515 MHz, and a boost clock of 1710 MHz. But again, the FE model is overclocked, this time to 1.8 GHz. It uses the same 14 gigabits per second GDDR6 memory, but on a slimmer 256-bit wide memory bus for a bandwidth of 448 gigabytes per second. Oh, and there's 8 gigabytes of memory in total. Then we have the RTX 2070, which packs 2,304 CUDA cores, a 1410 MHz base clock, and a boost clock of 1620 MHz, or 1710 MHz for the FE model. Again, 8 gigabytes of 14 gigabits per second GDDR6 memory is used on a 256 wide memory bus for the same 448 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth. As noted earlier, the 2080 Ti packs 10 gigaраys per second of ray tracing performance, and this figure has been reduced by 20% for the standard 2080 down to 8 gigaраys per second, and then the RTX 2070 packs 6 gigaраys per second, a 40% reduction from the flagship. At this point, we have no idea what this really means. Is 6 gigaраys per second even going to be useful? I suppose only time will tell. Personally, I'm not particularly wrapped with the design of the new FE models. I really liked the look of the GeForce 10 series FE cards. Admittedly, performance wasn't great, but at least they did look nice. This new version, though, looks worlds better in terms of cooling performance, but I think the design itself is a bit ugly. But I am interested to see if my opinion changes on this matter once I have one in hand. Finally, like the 1080 Ti, the 2080 Ti is a 250 watt part, then the vanilla 2080 is a 215 watt part, and that's 35 watts over the 1080, and then the 2070 comes in at 185 watts, and again that's 35 watts over the Pascal equivalent. So those are the key specifications for each model, and it means that we can take a pretty good stab at how each GPU will perform in today's games. The Turing streaming multiprocessors have been slightly refined, featuring some of the upgrades that came with the Volta architecture, such as dedicated integer cores, unified cache, and variable rate shading, though it is hard to say what, if any, advantage this will give Turing in today's games over Pascal. My guess is there will be pretty much no performance uplift to be seen, given that Nvidia didn't show a single non-ray tracing demo, so there's likely going to be zero IPC gains. The demos that they did show were quite impressive for the most part, but they weren't exactly flawless. I did notice quite a few odd glitches when looking closely. There are a number of artifacts to be seen, and there is a bit of odd stuttering going on as well. The performance hit also appears to be rather massive. The Tomb Raider demo looked to have the frame rate just about halved with RTX enabled, but that's just based on the footage we saw, and of course there was no frame rate data or anything like that provided, so I'm purely guessing, but still I'm dubious of just how useful this initial implementation of this technology is going to be. Assuming things remain much the same for today's games and those being released in the near future, we aren't talking about big performance gains here. At most, and I do mean at most here, the RTX 2080 Ti should be 20% faster than the GTX 1080 Ti, again at most, but the cost, well, that'll be at least 40% more if we go by the MSRP. However, for at least this year, the MSRP will likely mean nothing, as your chances of getting a partner card for $1,000 US are about as good as probably winning the lotto, to be honest. Looking online, the cheapest partner cards that I've seen cost $1,150 US, while most are priced closer to the $1,200 US asking price of the Founders Edition. So this means you're looking at around a 70% price hike over the GTX 1080 Ti for what is almost certainly going to be less than a 20% performance boost. So yeah, that's just brutal, to be honest. This is the problem with pre-orders. Nvidia's taking them an entire month ahead of time, so your average consumer is basically buying blind, and I doubt many of the media will caution them about that. It's pretty much hype train, full steam ahead. Nvidia's offered buyers very little information in regards to performance, so it's a big risk at these prices. Again, we strongly recommend you wait for our day one coverage. So I predict that the RTX 2080 Ti is going to only be slightly faster than the GTX 1080 Ti while costing a bloody truckload more. And shockingly, the situation with the 2080 is even worse. Right now, the GeForce GTX 1080 models, they're readily available for about $450 US. The RTX 2080, that carries an MSRP of $700 US, so that makes it a little over 50% more expensive. Even worse, right now, most of the partner cards are listed for $800 US, making it almost 80% more expensive. And again, we always expect that upon release, the prices are going to be a bit inflated. But even if we work off the MSRPs, prices really aren't going to go below those anytime soon until we get right to the end of the product cycle or even after it. So it's not looking good, especially when you consider that in terms of performance, we're looking at maybe I should say rather at most, a 15% boost in performance. And really, it's probably likely to be less than that, maybe 10%. Again, I'm just guessing here, but these figures make sense to me. So in titles where ray tracing isn't being used heavily, or I suppose at all, you're looking at a 10% performance uplift for almost an 80% hike in price. And again, I don't know, I'm just guessing here, but I don't think there's going to be many titles that make good use of ray tracing to justify that price premium. You're probably just better off with a GTX 1080. And even worse, I seriously doubt that the RTX 2080 can live with the GTX 1080 Ti. It's almost certainly going to be slower while costing more. So again, I'd probably just buy a GTX 1080 Ti at this point, but of course, wait for the reviews, though it might be a bit risky because stock may have run out by then. I don't know, it's a bit of a tough position for buyers here. Moving on to the RTX 2070, we're looking at GTX 1070 Ti Lite performance for at least $500 US. But given what we've seen with the 2080 models, you can expect to pay more like $600 US, at least for the first few months. So that's a $150 US price hike over the performance that we've had for about a year now. Of course, we are in this position because AMD's failed to compete with their RX Vega series. Vega 56 and Vega 64 were great for mining, but pretty hopeless for gaming, Vega 64 in particular. At this point, Nvidia really are just competing with themselves, and frankly, they don't even appear to be doing a great job of that with the GeForce 20 series. I'd probably just snap up a GTX 1080 Ti right now if I was in the market for a high-end graphics card, and that's not something I think I've really ever said before when we have a new generation that's just been announced. Of course, once the Pascal supply runs out, it's pretty much all over and Nvidia can just charge whatever they like because, let's be honest, gamers will pay up. And I don't mean to sound overly negative. I know I will have upset a few Nvidia fans, or probably quite a lot of Nvidia fans, with sort of the negative tone of this video, how unimpressed rather I've been with the specs and pricing. But yeah, I'm just unimpressed with the pricing given what I imagine the performance will look like. I don't see how I could be wrong about this, but I will be very, very happy if I am proven wrong when it is time to start testing these new GPUs. Of course, this isn't our review, so this is just speculation, maybe an educated guess you could say, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot until we get some hard data, and that will come in a month's time when we first check out the GeForce 20 series cards, and of course we'll go into a lot of depth there and find out just how much bang for your buck they do offer. Hopefully it's a lot more than I'm predicting here. If so, then it will be happy days. In any case, just don't pre-order. It's not a smart idea. For now, ray tracing looks to be more hype than anything, and Nvidia are using this to hide the fact that they don't actually have anything new to sell. At least just yet anyway. The real performance gains will come when they move to the 7nm process next year, so I don't see the GeForce 20 series having a particularly long lifespan, certainly nothing like what we saw with Pascal. Nvidia simply isn't going to accept giving up the performance crown to AMD, and I expect that is exactly what they will be doing with the GeForce 20 series next year. That is, of course, if they don't act and push out 7nm GPUs as soon as possible. So the GeForce 20 series looks to be a bit of a money grab in my opinion, a stopgap to 7nm if you will. I think the plan is to cash in now on the RTX hype and then deliver the real goods next year. After all, the RTX name change is designed to make you think that your Pascal GTX 1080 Ti, GTX 1080, and GTX 1070 are now heavily outdated, so give gamers the opinion that they've got to dump that GTX dinosaur and get in on the RTX action. And I think this is why Nvidia's pushing the RTX 2080 Ti out the gate right away, rather than waiting a year like they did with the GTX 1080 Ti. They simply aren't in a position where they can juice the series over a 2-year period. In fact, in my opinion, they don't even have an entire year. So rather than milk it over a 24-month period, the plan is to ravish gamers' wallets from day one. On a more positive note, the board partner models look very nice. In particular, I really like the MSI range, which comprises of 5 different models. So they've really gone all in on this one. The Ventus, I think that's how you say it, is a very FE-like looking card with the dual fan configuration, but I think it looks much better than NVIDIA's FE model, so maybe they should have got MSI to handle that one for them. The Stealthy Duke series gets an RGB light bar, which looks quite good, at least it's RGB, and the gaming trio looks bigger and badder than ever, and I of course mean badder in a good way. I will be twisting the arm of my MSI contact to get that model for testing, so fingers crossed I can pull that one off without pulling his arm off. But as always, let me know which versions you'd like us to check out, and we will do our best to make that happen. Anyway, as I said, this isn't a review, just Steve's 2 cents, so take that for what it is, an opinion without any hard performance data. And I think that's a pretty good place to end this video. If you did enjoy it, please hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and if you appreciate the work we do at Unboxed, then consider supporting us on Patreon. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Steve, and I'll see you again next time.